Hey guys, this is Cody, and today I'm doing my first video in my October Horror Fest series. Now I know I haven't done like a video like this before this October, but that's because I've mostly just been watching some like fun Halloween related movies in October that I didn't want to include as part of this Horror Fest series. I also didn't want to include my reviews for Found and Don't Go to the Reunion in the series because they were independent films, and I usually like to keep those separately just so they can get noticed better. But now I'm doing a whole new series. This is a series I'm going to be doing all throughout October leading up to Halloween. So yeah, be prepared for a ton of new October and horror related videos coming up. So the first movie that I decided to talk about in my October Horror Fest is one that I've heard so much about. I've seen so much hype about it come horror fans, and it's one that I've really looked forward to seeing. And that movie was released in 2013 by the always amazing Scream Factory, and that is The Battery. And as you can see probably from the cover, this is a zombie film, but this is way more than a typical zombie movie. The reason why I decided to pick up this movie is because there's so many different zombie films out there. The zombie subgenre has been so overworn and overdone throughout the last couple of years. What with The Walking Dead and things like that, that it's really hard for me to sit down and find and watch a newer zombie film. But I've been told by so many people that this movie was different and it was unique and mostly better than a lot of the typical zombie films. And I must say, this really was. This movie really did blow me away. Like I said, it's completely different from the typical zombie film. I won't even consider it a zombie film in a way. This is very unique. It's a whole new take on this whole genre, and this is definitely one that I highly recommend to anyone who has not seen it. So basically the film follows these two guys, these two men named Ben and Mickey. There's a picture of them right there on the back, and of course Scream Factory, reversible covers. Ben is the guy right there with the beard, and Mickey is sitting down next to him. And basically they're two guys that are wandering the woods of Connecticut shortly after a zombie apocalypse type thing goes down. But the only thing about this movie is there's really not that many zombies in this entire film. There's only a couple of zombies you see here and there in the movie, and then there's a large group of them at the end. But mostly what this movie is about are these two men living out in the woods trying to survive, and their relationship, together. As the movie goes on, you find out that they're not, they were both ball players. They didn't really know each other before all this started to happen. They're both baseball players. Ben is a very, you can tell Ben is kind of a southern type man. You can tell that he's the hunter-gatherer type. He's really into the thrill of the moment. He knows how to survive out in the woods. And he's a survivalist. That he's you can tell that he would be happy just living in like a log cabin out in the woods. Now Mickey, on the other hand, is the complete opposite of Ben. He is more of a city type guy. He's he's skinny. He's very emotional. Throughout most of the movie, he does get emotional at times in the film. He's also a romantic. Even Ben points this out, that Mickey's a romantic, whereas Ben is a realist. Mickey likes to think of love and things like that. He also walks around with a pair of headphones on his head, and that's mostly his way of blocking out the world and just staying in his own world where he can be alone in his thoughts and drown out everything that's going on around him. And that can be anything from a zombie, or it could just be Mickey and Ben just sitting around. Like at one point you see Mickey at the beginning of the film. He's sitting there, and he's in a chair, and he's listening to his headphones, and Ben's like, "Hey man, let's play some catch." and Mickey's like, well, what's the point of that? And Ben's like, well, that's what we do. We're baseball players, and so you can kind of see they're not really good friends to start off the movie, as they start off in the film. But as it goes on, you can really tell sort of a friendship grow between these two men, and it does get pretty strong near the end of the film. There's like I said, this is not a typical zombie film. There's hardly any zombies in it, and you don't even see anybody get attacked by a zombie. This is mostly a survival film in a way. I don't really consider this movie a horror film. I consider it more of a survival film, because it's about these two men. They're out in the woods. They're trying to take care of each other. They're trying to work together and survive, and just being together and the isolation. You can tell that there's a lot of isolation, It really does feel like that these are the two last guys almost on Earth. Of course, as the movie goes on, they do stumble across a survivor, but I'm not going to get into what happens there. But, it's really just them walking around the woods or driving around in a car that they stole. And, while this is happening, they're going to different houses and things like that, like houses that have been abandoned, that no one's there, and they're taking stuff that they need. Like at one point, they go into one of Mickey's old girlfriend's houses, and he's basically up in her room, like smelling her perfume and stuff like that, because that's really all he has. That's what he has from his past life, or his past friends and his past family, and they're pretty much all gone, and he wants to keep in touch with that. Whereas Ben, he pretty much has accepted the fact that his family is gone, that his family might be dead, and that he just has to move on, and he has to go with the thrill of the moment. And they don't work together, I guess, if you pair them up, but as the film goes on, they have to end up working, as a group, or as Ben says, a battery. They have to work together to survive this entire ordeal. There were a couple of moments that stood out to me. For one thing is, in the movie, they don't reference the dead as zombies. At one point, there's one scene where Mickey's talking. He's like, I don't want to be out here with a bunch of these Walking Dead people, which I thought was kind of funny. I thought they called them Walking Dead at one point, since The Walking Dead's so big, but probably not related. But there's also another scene where, and I'm not gonna get into what's really going on in that scene, but there's a scene where Mickey and Ben are in a car, and it's one of the cars that they stole, and they're getting drunk. And there's one point where Ben's like, say it, and Mickey's like, what? And he goes, say the Z word, meaning zombie, and Mickey's like, nah, man, they don't exist, they're not real. Which I think was kind of funny, because he's still caught up in reality, and he knows zombies, they don't exist or whatever, whereas Ben is kind of trying to accept it in some way and realizing that he has to, be around them and get rid of them whenever they can. And there's a couple of other moments like that. There's also one moment that I really, really liked, where they're both in a car. They're both in the car and they're both drunk, and they start singing the song that Robert Shaw's character Quint and Richard Dreyfuss's character Hooper in Jaws sings when they're in the boat. The show me the way to go home. I'm tired and I want to go to bed. And that's when I sort of related the movie to Jaws. They are actually pretty similar in a way. In Jaws, the second half of the film, and pretty much all of the third half, takes place on a boat, in the middle of the ocean, complete isolation, no one else is around, and they're completely just out there by themselves. And this is kind of the same thing with The Battery. The movie takes place mostly in a car. The two men are alone, and they have to rely on each other to sort of be their company, but also to protect each other and to basically try and make it out alive, rather than making it out alive from the zombies or just from the whole ordeal of them being alone. Because even during the end of the movie, Ben says something like, being alone for this long and doing the same thing over and over again, it gets to you. And I think that them being together sort of saved them from maybe even going insane throughout this whole ordeal. But yeah, like I said, if you haven't seen The Battery, I highly, highly recommend you check it out. Don't look at it as a zombie film. Look at it as a survival film. Look at it as two men being trapped out in the woods or in a car and trying to be together and work as a team and trying to get over isolation and loneliness and just getting over everything. And zombies are just a backdrop. I think that's one reason why I prefer the alternate cover to this, because this is the cover that has on it I got it from the store. I got this at Walmart for $10. I think it was 10. I think it's a lot. I think it's worth a lot more than, or I think it's worth more than $10. I think this movie is way worth that price. But the cover of this one kind of makes it look like a typical zombie film, which I think will throw some people off. I kind of think that if they had used the reversible cover, I think that it would have fit the film a lot better, because this is a whole lot more than a zombie flick. This is a survival film. It's about two men trying to survive, being alone and working together. And I really cannot recommend this enough. So if you're looking for a new, cool, original movie to watch in October, I highly recommend this one. Like I said, not much goes on. It's mostly just them, trying to survive, and it's their relationship. And it does get really intense near the end of the film. As for blood or whatever, there's no blood in the movie. There's not really a lot of blood. There's only a couple of bloody scenes, but mostly the effects or the makeup on the zombies, and that's mostly the only really main effects. The music in it is pretty cool. There's a lot of folk rock bands that are in this movie, and I actually thought it fit really well. It fit with the setting of the movie, them being in Connecticut, or the setting of just the two men, and you can really tell that this is the type of music that they probably listen to all the time. And the music is the type of music that I'd say, if you want to sit around a fire and listen to or something like that, you know what I mean? Just good old, well, not old, but good folk rock music. And I really enjoyed it, as well as the actual score of the film is also really good. The movie was directed by Jeremy Gardner, who actually plays Ben in this movie, and I think it's very, very well directed. There's some pretty intense scenes. There's a lot of emotional scenes in it as well, and I think it's one movie that I think everyone should see. It's an amazing film. But anyway, guys, that is my review for The Battery. Like I said, I highly recommend checking it out. If you're looking for something completely different, more of a survival film, then I cannot recommend that one enough. If you've seen The Battery, definitely let me know what you think about it as well. Anyway, guys, that was my first October Horror Fest. I'm not going to be home tomorrow, but I will start doing a whole week of these videos next week and leading up to Halloween. So get prepared for a lot of great, awesome horror reviews coming up. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys later.